UFC Fight Night Vegas 32, Sandhagen versus Dillashaw takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelim opener of, actually, this fight has just been made, literally as I'm actually recording this video. Trevin Jones versus Ronnie Lawrence is now going to be on the card. I don't know where it's going to be on the card, so I'll just put it in there first and get it over with now. I believe Ronnie Lawrence will beat Trevin Jones in this fight. It's a great matchup, don't get me wrong. Trevin Jones has great power. He has that win over Timo Valiev, which now looks really good, but in all honesty, it was kind of like a 1 in 100 chance that he was going to land that one punch that would put down Timo Valiev and put him away, because Timo Valiev was really just destroying and embarrassing him in that first round. Either way, I do acknowledge Trevin Jones does have great power. He showed that against Mario Batista as well. I just believe he's going to have a little bit of a wrestling problem here against a guy in Ronnie Lawrence. Timo Valiev was very content to just go out there and kick and strike with Trevin Jones, but I feel like against a good grappler and someone who really will implement a grappling based game plan in Ronnie Lawrence, he's going to have some real problems, because Lawrence can hold him against a cage, take him down over and over again, and as you defend those takedowns, the power from your hands does leave as the fight goes on, whereas it wouldn't maybe if you were taking on a guy who wants to jab with you for 3 straight rounds like Mario Batista. Also, Ronnie Lawrence, he is open in certain angles to get hit, so it's a worrying pick, don't get me wrong, but I do believe, I don't know about the odds yet, but I do believe that Ronnie Lawrence will be a slight underdog here, so I'm going to predict that, and I think he will get the job done by outworking Trevin Jones in the grappling department and just getting surprise takedowns here and there in some big powerful exchanges. And I think his movement as well, the way he moves, very herky-jerky, very Dominic Cruz-esque, in and out, switching stances, is just going to make it a little bit harder for Trevin Jones to land that one perfect punch. I'll go with Ronnie Lawrence using his grappling to get the win over Trevin Jones this weekend. Moving on to the early prelim opener, the actual early prelim opener, Diana Belbita versus Hannah Goldy. I'm actually going to go with Diana Belbita here as an underdog. I think she'll get it done against Hannah Goldy. Great matchup. Hannah Goldy 5-1, Diana Belbita 13-6. Both girls coming off losses. I'm going to go with Diana Belbita as an underdog. I don't know why so many people are picking Hannah Goldy. I don't see what makes her good in any way whatsoever. I mean, she's okay. She hasn't fought really anyone that good in her career. Doesn't have the most experience in the world compared to a girl like Diana Belbita. Younger, 25 years of age, 4 years younger than Hannah Goldy, with like triple the fight experience than Hannah Goldy. I think this is going to help Diana Belbita in the fight. The experience, the youth, the fact that she's going to be improving more rapidly, the fact that she doesn't have an OnlyFans account on the side, I think just makes her way more committed to the fight game. And when you have an OnlyFans, there is a part of your fighting style where it's like, right, I've broken my nose, I will get less OnlyFans because of this. I'm going to quit now before it gets completely rearranged. I think that just shows me that you're not full force into the fight game. I'm going with Diana Belbita here. Got more experience, fought better competition opponents. I know she's lost to those opponents as well, but then again, Hannah Goldy lost to Miranda Granger all the way back in 2019. She's been very, very inactive here as well, which I think is going to come into play. Diana Belbita, more active, more experience. She fought in 2020 in July. She's only been out for a year compared to the 2 years of Hannah Goldy, and Miranda Granger went on to lose 2 fights in a row. I know it was to Amanda Lemos and some other good opponents, but I think Hannah Goldy just isn't that good. She's smaller, she has a way shorter reach as well than Diana Belbita, so I'm just going to go with Diana Belbita. All of the natural advantages, other than maybe skill that you could notice in like male fighters, all of the natural advantages go to Diana Belbita here, so I'm going to pick her to win over Hannah Goldy. I have no idea how Hannah Goldy is such a big favourite, so I'm going with Diana Belbita. Moving on up the card, Sijara Eubanks versus Elise Reed. I'm going to go with Sijara Eubanks here. I know her record is not good in any way whatsoever. I completely understand that Sijara Eubanks is 6-6 in the UFC, but one thing I do understand as well is that she had a very, very close fight with Aspen Ladd, who's currently a top contender. Now, don't get me wrong, Elise Reed is not too shabby at MMA. She's actually okay. She's fought some decent opponents. I just think in the UFC, it's a different level, and all of the close times that she's almost lost outside the UFC, like against Jasmine, Just the Vicious, who was 4-0 at the time she went to a split decision. That girl's not the best in the world. I've seen her fight on CFFC. I actually watched that Elise Reed fight on CFFC as well. Don't get me wrong, Elise Reed is actually kind of okay. I'm just going to go with the toughness and the brutality and the experience of Sijara Eubanks, plus knowing that she's fighting for her career. I'll go with Sijara Eubanks to get the job done here against a newcomer, Elise. I think if people outside the UFC are making split decisions against you, the people in the UFC are obviously going to maybe tilt that over the top and get the win against you by unanimous decision. Sijara Eubanks gets it done. Moving on up the card, Julio Arce versus Andre Ewell. I'm going with Andre Ewell as an underdog here. I'm going to pick him against Julio Arce. I don't know why he's such a big underdog. These odds are confusing to me. It's almost like they're baiting me into these underdog picks. Andre Ewell, I believe, is going to get the job done here against Julio Arce. I like Julio Arce, but I'm noticing something in his game, and I've watched a lot of these guys' fights in the build-up to this. I think something's wrong with Julio Arce's shins. Now, don't get me wrong. He's got a head kick KO on his record. He never throws leg kicks, and in my opinion, the only way to beat Andre Ewell, and the best, most guaranteed way of doing it, is either dominate him in the grappling, which I don't believe Julio Arce is going to do, or if you're going to stand up with him, which Julio Arce will do, you've got to be able to chew up his legs. He's got a wide base, very long legs, very skinny legs. You've got to chew them up, like Chris Gutierrez did, like Nathaniel Wood did, and then Nathaniel Wood went for the grappling afterwards. Julio Arce doesn't really grapple too much. I don't see him out grappling Andre Ewell here. And I think on the feet, he's going to be completely outranged. He's got a massive reach advantage of 5 inches, a height disadvantage as well, and he doesn't throw leg kicks ever. You can go through all of his fights. You might find one leg kick. In his last few fights, he's had a 0% attack rate to the legs. And I think that's actually a sign that maybe his shins are a little bit compromised. He doesn't want to chop at the calf too much. Doesn't really have confidence in the conditioning of his shins. Maybe he has an injury like Luke Rockhold had, where he had to get that bit of a graft done and put some bone in there and heal it up. I'm not too sure. I just feel like Julio Arce doesn't throw leg kicks, and this is going to be a stand-up matchup between Andre Ewell and Julio Arce. I think Andre Ewell's going to be too rangy, and Arce has no way to slow him down or chop him down or get on the inside. I'm going with Andre Ewell, keeping him at range for 3 rounds, 30-27, unanimous decision Andre Ewell. Plus, he lost to Chris Gutierrez last fight. He broke his arm in that fight. I really rate Andre Ewell. I think he's actually better than people think, and I think he'll beat Julio Arce. Moving on up the card, Adrian Yanez versus Randy Costa. I'm going to go with Adrian Yanez here over Randy Costa. Randy Costa's very good, so the fact that it's unanimously in favor of Adrian Yanez here on Tapology is very confusing to me again. But I believe Adrian Yanez is going to beat Randy Costa. Randy Costa's good. He's just a bit too wild for my liking. That's mainly the reason why I'm not picking him here against Adrian Yanez. In a fight where I know both guys are capable of KOing each other, Adrian Yanez does everything perfect technique. Randy gets wild. That could be good. Maybe Randy Costa brings the wildness out in Adrian Yanez, but I'm going to favor the technique over the wildness. Adrian Yanez does things way better. Randy Costa is a much bigger man. He also cuts a lot more weight, and he does get clipped in his fights on the chin occasionally. Had a good win in his last fight against Johnny Newson by a head kick KO. Amazing head kick KO win. He is the Zohan Costa. Very good with the head kicks. I just don't believe he's going to get this one done. I can actually see Randy Costa loading up a switch kick to the head and getting caught with a straight right hand from Adrian Yanez right on the chin as he's loading up the kick, and he just sort of flops to the canvas and goes out cold. I'll say round 1, KO, Adrian Yanez. Not because I think Randy Costa is easier than other opponents that Yanez has taken longer rounds. I just think Costa's style is going to make a scrap immediately. And it's going to be a first round finish either way. I'd actually maybe put a bet on that if there is one. This will end in the first round. That might be a good bet to make. I'm going to go with the technique and the chin of Adrian Yanez over maybe the wildness and the little bit chinniness and the weight cuttiness of Randy Costa. He got caught against Brandon Davis a lot of times, chopped at the legs, caught with a big knee as he was throwing a wild exchange against Brandon Davis. Eventually got caught and rear naked choked in that fight to the side almost. I think I'm going to go with Adrian Yanez here, catching Randy Costa with a straight right hand as he loads up with a switch kick to the head. I like Yanez's style. He's young, he's improving, and he's taken no damage in his bouts. I'm going to go with Adrian Yanez getting this one done. More experience as well is always going to be a favour. And he's been more active. Moving on up the card. Nassourdine Imavov versus Ian Heinisch. I'm going to go with Ian Heinisch here. Nassourdine Imavov is actually quite good. I actually picked him in a couple of his last fights, but he hasn't really shown up for them too much. Phil Hawes' fight, he actually did okay in hindsight, seeing as what Phil Hawes did to Kyle Daukaus. Nassourdine Imavov's actually a good opponent. Could have maybe got a win in that Phil Hawes fight if he didn't really close the distance for the clinch in that 3rd round and Phil Hawes maybe didn't grab the cage 10 times. Either way, Ian Heinisch I believe we'll get the win over Nassourdine Imavov. Nassourdine, 9-3, is the younger guy, so he is going to be improving more rapidly. But Ian Heinisch, great grappling. I don't see him being out-grappled by Nassourdine Imavov. And Imavov is open in those early rounds to get clipped on the chin. And Ian Heinisch, in all honesty, for a big muscle-bound guy at middleweight, he can push a bit of a pace now. He pushed a good pace against Kelvin Gastelum. It was a close fight, very competitive with Kelvin Gastelum. I'm going to rate a close decision loss to Kelvin Gastelum over a close decision loss to Phil Hawes any day of the fucking week. I'm going with Ian Heinisch here. Good at grappling, good power on the feet, solid chin as well, tough guy. I think I'm going to go with Ian Heinisch getting this one done. Plus, he's fighting to stay relevant in his career. If he loses this one, he's probably going to slip all the way down the rankings and get fed some undefeated prospects coming into the UFC. So, I'm going to go with Ian Heinisch. It's on the line for him. I think he gets it done, maybe by TKO against Nassourdine Imavov. Moving on up the card, Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Chris Daukaus. I have no idea what the layout of this card is. It makes zero sense why all of these great fights are on the prelims compared to the main card. Whatever. Shamil Abdurakhimov, Chris Daukaus. I'm going to go with Chris Daukaus here getting a TKO in the first round. I mean, that's what he always does anyway, so it's not like I'm really breaking news here by picking Chris Daukaus in the first round by TKO. He's got quick TKO wins over Alexei Olenek, and Spivak just went 3 hard rounds with Olenek, so that kind of shows that Olenek's kind of still got it. Rodrigo Nascimento Ferreira got destroyed in the first round by Chris Daukaus. He just bounced back on this weekend's card, just gone. Makhachev Moises got a big win against Alan Badeau, came back in the second. Chris Daukaus put him away in the first round. Parker Porter got put away in the first round. Chris Daukaus got real quick hands early. I think Shamil Abdurakhimov, the older guy that he is, after the massively long layoff as well, which is a big deal, 2 years away from the game, you're going to be a little bit hesitant in that early round. Against a guy like Chris Daukaus, who's active and really aggressive early, and with KO power, I think Shamil's going to open himself up early, a little bit hesitant, a little bit rusty in the cage, and Daukaus will get himself another first round TKO. But Shamil Abdurakhimov's good, man. He's beaten Andrei Arlovsky, beat Chase Sherman, beat Marcin Tybura, lost to Curtis Blades, but that's Curtis Blades. I just feel like Chris Daukaus has shown great takedown defense. Don't see Shamil really being able to out-grapple him, and I think on the feet early, Daukaus is going to overwhelm him and get a first round TKO. Chris Daukaus gets this one done. I think he's great, and I think he could actually go on to do really dangerous stuff in that heavyweight division. I'm Team Daukaus. The favourite brother Chris will get it done. The shame of the family, Kyle Daukaus, will watch from the sofa with his fucking swollen eye. Moving on, Chris Daukaus gets it done, but moving on up the card to the headliner of the prelims. Punahele Soriano versus Brendan Allen. Again, why is it on the prelims? I have no idea. This could be a co-main event. Punahele Soriano, Brendan Allen, great matchup. I'm going to go with Punahele Soriano. Risky pick. Very close fight. Brendan Allen is very good. He could go out there and try and out-grapple Punahele Soriano, but I've tried to use that to predict a Brendan Allen fight too many times. And sometimes he just doesn't find the takedown and he's stuck on the feet with opponents. Although his stand-up does look improved, I think Punahele Soriano, the tank that he is, with as good of a chin that he has, and the power that he has as well, makes fighters not fight their A-game when they're standing up with him. It makes them back up, makes them hesitant, makes them worried, and I am going to go with Punahele Soriano getting a KO blow over the top against Brendan Allen, especially if you watch that fight against Sean Strickland. There are a lot of openings on the feet against Brendan Allen. He leaves his hand down after exchanges quite a bit. I could definitely see Brendan Allen in the first round starting an exchange, beginning to maybe throw some kicks and shots at Punahele Soriano, and then in the middle of his combination, I think Soriano's going to wing over the top, land a big shot on the chin, and put Brendan Allen out in that first round. Punahele Soriano gets the KO win. I think he's just such a wrecking ball, it's hard to pick against him at this point, and he's young, and he's got time on his side, and he's got experience. He's got amateur experience as well. Just beat Dusko Todorovic by first round KO. He's very good. He's got power. I think he's going to expose some defensive holes in Brendan Allen and land those KO blows in the first round. Punahele Soriano gets this one done. Very competitive. I think he's got good enough takedown defense to stuff the takedowns of Brendan Allen. And Allen almost sort of likes to play the bottom game a little bit more, going for those leg locks that he usually goes for. I think Punahele's going to be experienced enough to stay out of those positions against Brendan Allen. He knows what to be aware of. I think Brendan Allen, even if he knows to be aware of the KO blows, he's going to be thinking about it so much in these combinations, it's almost going to make him more open to them. I'm going Punahele Soriano, round 1 KO. Moving on up the card to the main card. Mickey Gall versus Jordan Williams. I'll go Jordan Williams. I like Jordan Williams. I was almost about to pick Mickey Gall, and I know that some people would have chuckled at that decision, but Jordan Williams is really not that good of a guy. He's 9-4 for a reason. Lost to Nassourdine Imavov, but that was him getting out grappled. Mickey Gall is not as big as Nassourdine Imavov in any way whatsoever, and he does have some good wins. Gregory Rodriguez is a decent win on the Contender Series. He lost to Ramazan Kuramagomedov, who's great. And he only lost by a split decision against a really great guy in Ramazan Kuramagomedov. Pushed a good pace in that fight as well. I really like Jordan Wright's chances here. Maybe if Mickey Gall had some KO power, I could pick him. I just think he's going to get completely outgrinded by Jordan Williams. Maybe Mickey Gall gets the back in the first round, takes down Jordan Williams. But as the rounds go on, I'm going to trust the cardio advantage of Jordan Williams, the volume advantage of Jordan Williams, the body work of Jordan Williams. And I think he'll get those last 2 rounds against Mickey Gall for a unanimous decision win. I like Mickey Gall. He does actually show some promise in his fights sometimes, but there's just too many other times where you're losing to this version of Mike Perry. You can't lose to this version of Mike Perry. You're not allowed to lose to this version of Diego Sanchez. That's not allowed. Don't do that. Mike Perry, Diego Sanchez, 2019 onwards, those are 3 wins. Stop losing to them. That's my opinion on Mickey Gall. I think he's going to lose to Jordan Williams by decision. Moving on up the card, Miranda Maverick versus Maycee Barber on the main card. I'm going to go with Miranda Maverick here over Maycee Barber. Maycee Barber seems okay. She actually did show some promise in the early part of her career. I actually thought she maybe would have gone on to be something in that division, but she just doesn't seem to really have too much skill, in all honesty. Maybe Gillian Robertson and JJ Aldridge and Hannah Cyphers aren't that good, and let's be real, JJ Aldridge dropped Maycee Barber in that fight, was doing really good against her, and then Maycee Barber landed a big shot and made a bit of a comeback. In scrappy bouts, Maycee Barber's very good, but Miranda Maverick is very technical. She stays at range. I believe she has a reach advantage here over Maycee Barber as well. She does have a slight reach advantage over Maycee Barber. That's going to help her out a ton. She's got more experience. She's almost the same age as well, so it's not like she's an older girl and Maycee Barber's on the come up. Maycee Barber is a little bit technically unsound at range, and if it doesn't get scrappy and brawly, I don't think it favours her at all. I'm going with Miranda Maverick, keeping it rangy, keeping it clean, and shooting some takedowns when she needs to. I think she's got better grappling than Maycee Barber, and that's going to play into her favour as well. Miranda Maverick gets the job done, man. She's had some great performances. I know she's lost in her career, but recently she's been doing really good. Easy win over Gillian Robertson. After that, she went 3 rounds as well, showed great cardio. Liana Jujua, easy win there, beat her up in the first round. Eventually, Jujua stopped on the stall to a cut. Maycee Barber, in her last fight against Grasso, just straight up shadow boxed out of range. I'm not trusting that. I want to go with Miranda Maverick. She has the grit to be a fighter. She gets in there when she needs to, but she also knows when to stay at range and when to stay clean. And I think that's what she'll do here against Maycee Barber for 3 rounds. Moving on up the card, Darren Elkins versus Darrick Minner. I'm going to go with Darrick Minner getting the job done here. I like him. I actually really like Darrick Minner. I think he's pretty underrated, and I've picked against him a lot of times. Listen, 26-11 for having 37 fights is actually a good record, in all honesty. I know they're not the best opponents in the world, don't get me wrong, but I'm actually going to go with Darrick Minner here over Darren Elkins. Darren Elkins in his last bout, don't get me wrong, he won, and he's going to stick onto his career because of it, but I actually picked him against Eduardo Grigori. Eduardo Grigori is not a good fighter, in all honesty, at all. He has one of the most padded records in the UFC right now, and that's for a reason, because they know he's not that good. Couldn't beat Darren Elkins. Lost to Nate Landwehr, which now doesn't look too good, seeing as 2 people in a row have just destroyed Nate Landwehr. Lost to Ryan Hall, which now doesn't look too good, because Ryan Hall just got exposed for diving headfirst into a canvas non-stop. Lost to Alexander Volkanovski, not too bad, but all of these losses in a row, I think they just tally up. And I think Darrick Minner's going to be able to win the scrambles against Darren Elkins, win the stand-up situations as well. He beat Charles Rosa, which although isn't that good, it does show that you're not really a bottom feeder of the division. He beat TJ Laramie as well. He's beaten other good opponents like Terrence McKinney by first round triangle choke. Terrence McKinney's now in the UFC getting first round KOs. I feel like he's going to get the job done here. Put up a decent scrap against Grant Dawson. Showed good grappling there even though he lost. I'm going to pick him to beat Darren Elkins and get the job done. Darrick Minner gets it done here by decision. Just out scrambling Darren Elkins in all of the situations. Moving on up the card, Kyler Phillips versus Howlian Paver. I'm going to go with Kyler Phillips, of course. There's no other prediction to make. Howley and Paver's a flyweight, and they're actually kind of good. Don't get me wrong, flyweights do have a chance of moving up and giving some of these bantamweights some issues, but Kyler Phillips is just too good, too variant, and one thing I like about Kyler Phillips as well that I don't think he gets enough credit for, his chain takedown ability. Not really chain takedown, what am I looking for here? His surprise takedown ability, mixing in his takedowns with combinations, throwing a 1-2 and then blasting a double leg underneath it, is actually world-class stuff. And I think that's what he's going to use here to beat Howley and Paver. I see a first-round rear naked choke submission win for Kyler Phillips. I think he'll land some good shots on the feet. Howley and Paver will start throwing some heat back. Then Phillips will go in again, throw a couple of more shots on the feet, and then Howley and Paver will be taken down on the ground. He got taken down by Rodrigo Bontorin in the flyweight division. Has been held down in his career before. He lost as Algasser-Magulov by being out-grappled in that fight as well. I think Kyler Phillips, too big at bantamweight. I think he's just going to dive double legs in the middle of combinations and flatten Paver on his back and get a rear naked choke against a short notice replacement in the first round. Kyler Phillips, first round submission. I really like Kyler Phillips. He trains with Sean O'Malley, Casey Kenny, got a ton of bantamweight training partners to help him out for this fight. Howley and Paver, short notice in the bantamweight division. In all honesty, I feel like Howley and Paver has taken this as a free payday. He wants to stay in the flyweight division. We know that because he was signing fights with David Dvorak. I think this is just Howley and Paver thinking to himself, right, I've got an opportunity. I won't look bad if I lose because I took it on short notice up a weight class. I'm going to move back down to flyweight anyway. This doesn't even affect my flyweight ranking. I'm just going to get the paycheck here against Kyler Phillips. I don't like that attitude, and that's the assumed attitude that I think he has. I'm going to go with Kyler Phillips mixing in takedowns, blasting a double leg, and just controlling Paver on the ground for a first round sub. Moving on up the card, Aspen Ladd versus Maycee Chasson. I'm going to go with Aspen Ladd. Both girls sort of do the same things. Maycee Chasson is much bigger than Aspen Ladd and does have a reach advantage, but I think Aspen Ladd is going to have the grappling advantage here and just a strength advantage against the cage as well. She's younger, she's more improving. I know a lot of people judge her by that one loss to Jermaine Durandamy where she got KO'd immediately. 9-1. In hindsight, she got dropped by Jermaine Durandamy. As we know in women's MMA, you're not allowed to get dropped, otherwise they'll completely call off the fight. Aspen Ladd, it was a good stoppage though, what am I talking about? Either way, Aspen Ladd got a good strength advantage against the cage, was able to out-grapple Yana Kunitskaya, get her to the ground, land some good ground and pound there. I can see Aspen Ladd getting a late second round ground and pound TKO win. Maycee Chasson is quite good, but looking at what Miesha Tate just easily handled Marion Renault like, Maycee Chasson's performance against Marion Renault doesn't really look that great in hindsight. She got taken down, she spent time on bottom, fair play, she reversed it, but I think Aspen Ladd, in her prime, on the come up, hungry for a belt, she'll get the job done against Maycee Chasson, stronger against the cage. That's how I see this one going. Maycee Chasson comes out, lands some good shots on the feet, lands some good jabs at range against Aspen Ladd. Then Aspen Ladd pushes her against the cage, gets the clinch, stomps the toes, punches the body, goes for some sweeps, goes for some throws, right into the center of the octagon, ends up on top. Ground and pound shots at the end of round 1, it gets called off. Round 2, she goes out there to do the same thing, and I think she's going to get it done against Maycee Chasson. More experience against better competition as well, which needs to be mentioned. Aspen Ladd gets it done. Moving on to the main event. Cory Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw. He's back. Dillashaw, Killashaw, Dollar Dillashaw is in the building. Clean Juice CEO. Cory Sandhagen, TJ Dillashaw. I'm going with Cory Sandhagen. I like TJ Dillashaw. If you watch my channel for long enough, you'll know that before the roids, he was actually my favourite fighter ever. I thought he was the best fighter to watch on the roster, up and down. And then the roid stuff happened, and it was like, maybe not so much anymore my favourite fighter, but I'm really looking forward to this one. But another favourite fighter of mine is Cory Sandhagen right now. That guy is nothing but entertaining. Will kick KO over Marlon Moraes, which I just watched on YouTube as well. Also has a clean flying knee KO over Frankie Edgar. The intensity that has switched in Cory Sandhagen, in my opinion, is what's going to win him this fight. We can go through. Maybe Dillashaw has a wrestling advantage. I understand. He has an experience advantage. I understand. I really get that. He maybe has a striking advantage as well. Technically, shot for shot, maybe Dillashaw does things a little bit more technically than Cory Sandhagen. I think Cory Sandhagen has more of a Dominic Cruz approach than a Dillashaw approach to the game. It's not all tucked in and tight and very technical. It's more variant and moving around a lot and switching stances and a little bit more abstract than you would normally see from like a Piotr Jan in the bantamweight division. He's more of a Cruz than a Piotr Jan. Although both guys strike effectively, there's different approaches to it. I think the wildness of Cory Sandhagen is going to cause problems for TJ Dillashaw. Dillashaw is used to sort of being in the realm of the reach of his opponents. Sandhagen's going to be much bigger. I think this is going to be a brutal reminder of how big guys are in their divisions now. Cory Sandhagen is basically a featherweight in the bantamweight division. Much longer reach than Dillashaw, which is going to help him. And in the kicks as well, a way longer reach than TJ Dillashaw. The hand reach is not even, it shouldn't even be measured. The leg reach of Sandhagen is going to be night and day, maybe fucking 8 inches above TJ Dillashaw. I think he's going to be able to kick him from range, front kicks, leg kicks, inside leg kicks that he likes to use so much as he scoots around. Dillashaw does set up a lot of his stuff with a lot of footwork first, edges in with his lead leg, then goes for combinations. I think the inside leg kick could disrupt that as he comes in. I think Cory Sandhagen is going to get a question mark kick KO in the first round. I think, regardless of all the things I've just mentioned, it comes down to this. TJ Dillashaw has not been in that octagon since, and let me just find this out right now so I can find the exact date. TJ Dillashaw has not been in the octagon since January of 2019. That is 2 years and a half off. 2.5 years off. He is an older man. He has always been a little bit chinny in his career as well. If he ever lost a fight, it was mainly because he just was a little bit chinny. Against John Dodson, we saw that. Against Henry Cejudo, we saw that as well. You shouldn't be getting sort of KO'd off of a punch from a flyweight. Like, that normally doesn't even happen to other flyweights. Don't let it happen to you. I think Dillashaw's main problem in his career is that he's a little bit chinny in certain exchanges, and he does have some close losses to Dominic Cruz as well. I'm not really going to look at that. I think Dillashaw has changed recently in his career from that Dominic Cruz fight. I just think Cory Sandhagen right now is on fire. He's active. He's switched on early, and he talks about this as well himself. He has got a massive intensity difference right now in his game. He used to be a lot more floaty around and accepting to move backwards and just jab at guys as they waded forward against him. But I think now he's changed into this mode where it's about, I'm going to fucking murder you in that cage. And I think that's what he's going to go out there and try and do against TJ Dillashaw. I think he's going to start switched on early, look for the KO early against Dillashaw, who's going to be 2.5 years off. Older guy, taking his KO losses in his career. I believe that's 3 now in his career that he's had. Maybe 2. Only 2 KO losses in his career, but he got dropped by Cody Garbrandt, has been hurt in his fights before, gets dropped in his fights quite often. I'm going to go with Cory Sandhagen getting this one done, just catching TJ Dillashaw with a question mark kick to the face, setting him up with front kicks early, setting him up with inside leg kicks early. Dillashaw tries to move in for maybe a little duck under like he does to try and shift the stances. As he does that, Sandhagen throws a question mark kick, looks like a front kick to the stomach. Dillashaw tries to parry it low because he's very defensively aware. And he does those things. Oftentimes, if you're very defensively aware, you can actually give away what you're going to do defensively. Like, if you just keep your hands up and accept shots to the body, you can be a little bit safer because people aren't going to be able to trick you too much. You know what I mean? They may be able to kick your guts out, but they might not be able to trick you as much. The fact that Dillashaw is wanting to block the body shots and wanting to catch the leg kicks and wanting to check. He wants to be able to defend all of these shots perfectly. I think after a couple of front kicks, he's going to start baiting him, and I think he's going to eventually catch him going for those front kicks as he switches it into a question mark kick in the first round. He puts down TJ Dillashaw with a head kick, question mark kick, finishes off with ground and pound. TJ Dillashaw calls it an early stoppage because he's still moving and still trying to get a single leg on the referee, and I think some people are going to say, maybe it should have been let go a little bit longer, but the stoppages now are a little bit earlier, and you can't get rocked badly anymore because the referees are ready to jump in. I'm going to go with Cory Sandhagen, first round TKO, question mark kick to the head, too intense early, too active, too ready, against a hesitant and rusty Dillashaw that I think we're going to see come back after his suspension. Plus, I don't think he's been on roids his whole career. I genuinely believe he only did it for the Cejudo fight. But there's also that factor that maybe he was on roids his whole career, and that's going to play into this as well. I just don't think you can pick Dillashaw. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Sandhagen round 1 KO. Click that button up there. Toodle pip.